The 2023 CrossFit Games has come to an end, and I am back home. It's been about a week, and I did a podcast during this week, The Real Deal with Courtney Harden, and he asked me a question that got me thinking. He asked, who do I think of the two winners is more likely to be a repeat champ in 2024? Because we've had a lot of repeat champs on the women's and on the men's side throughout the years. And the truth is, my opinion at this point, neither. I think neither of these athletes, Laura Horvath or Jeff Adler, are likely to defend their championships in 2024. And I wanted to talk a little bit about why I think that is just unlikely for both of these athletes. In 2023 was sort of the perfect storm for both of them to make it to the top of the podium. And if I had to pick which of these two athletes I thought was more likely to repeat, I would probably go with Jeff Adler. I think we've seen a lot of growth from him over the last couple of years, and he was poised to make this top finish and pushing for it. Despite some circumstances making it a little bit more likely that he ended up where he did. But I still think it's really, really unlikely. So we'll start with Jeff, and we will start with the men's side of the leaderboard and why I just think it's very unlikely to see Jeff Adler repeat. There is at least one notable athlete who is out of the field this year that I felt had a chance of beating Jeff, and that would be Ricky Garrard. He injured himself in a biking accident back before semifinals, so he wasn't able to compete this year because of that, and he is supposed to make a full recovery. So I do think with someone like Ricky back in the field, it's someone that I would have predicted to be above Jeff Adler, even though at the end I predicted in my wild predictions that Jeff Adler would win the game. So there was a part of me that was very much on board with the idea that Jeff had what it took to win the games this year. I think if Ricky was there, I likely would have had him, Ricky, over Jeff in my top 25. And if we talk about just who was there at the games this year, Roman Krennikov was ahead of Jeff Adler for most of the weekend. Roman Krennikov wore the leader jersey for most of the weekend. Roman finished third on the podium. Roman also got 0 points in the last two events because he broke his foot on event 10. And after that, literally accumulated no points. He started the event so that he wouldn't have to withdraw, so that he could still have a chance at the podium and still have a chance at the money that comes along with that and finishing his season and seeing it through and not withdrawing. So he did do his best. He hopped on one leg for a bunch of double unders, and he, biked slowly. But I think if Roman wasn't injured, there's a decent chance Roman Krennikov is your fittest man on earth this year. That's the truth. Jeff Adler was creeping up on him. 100%. I think it would have been a push. I think it would have been a race in that final event. But I've heard from some Mayhem people that event 11, the jump rope and the sled pulls and the P-bars would have been great for Roman if he wasn't injured for that. And Jeff had a closer to the middle of the pack finish. So even though Jeff was ahead of him going into that event, Roman may have had the lead going into the final event, and then I think it would have been a race. And Roman can wreck a bike and can do some thrusters. So there's a chance Roman Krennikov would have been your fittest man on earth, and we wouldn't even be talking about Jeff Adler potentially repeating. But I don't think it's a given, 100%. I think that Jeff Adler had a solid chance of ending up where he did. And it's unfortunate that some people may put a little asterisk next to his win because he did it after somebody who led the whole weekend got hurt. But he was creeping up on him prior to that. So I think Jeff, he did, you can't not capitalize on those circumstances, but I think that I think it's not a given Jeff wins if Roman was healthy. So not even just Roman and Ricky, who were two guys that were on the podium last year that could have beat Jeff Adler this year, but also Justin Maderos, who's kind of went from top dog to underdog this past week, having won the CrossFit Games in 2021 and 2022, and then being in the teens this year. But I think Justin is going to make a comeback. This may be his worst finish at the games ever, and he may have years left to go. So I wouldn't count Justin out to get back on the podium or to possibly win it all again, especially being inspired by what happened this year. So that's another person that I think Jeff Adler has to look at, just like breathing down his neck. And finally, I think we have to take a look at Dallin Pepper, who finished in 5th this year from a 19th place finish the previous year, and he's a young athlete. He still has a lot of growth and a lot of improvement to do. And he's somebody that I think a lot of people have to keep their eyes on, because he quietly ended up in 5th place. I was at the games, I was watching, and I'm like, I didn't even realize Dallin was in this heat, because he's not really leading at any point, but he's doing exactly what he needs to do to stay in the mix and do well. Sort of like what Ariel Lowen did this weekend or this past weekend, to end up on the podium. So those are people that are dangerous, the people that just don't pull the spotlight, aren't the ones everyone are looking at, but all of a sudden come out and you're like, wait, how is that person on the podium? They weren't saying their name all weekend, but they were just doing enough. CrossFit is about being well-rounded. You don't have to win any events, and you could still win the game without winning any singular workout. So knowing that you don't have to win any of the tests, just have to be well-rounded, Dallin showed he could do that, and Dallin's a kid. Dallin has more growing to do. Dallin has not reached his full potential yet, and he was a top 5 athlete this year. So that's another person that I think could potentially be a games winner in the future and may make it hard for someone like Jeff Adler to repeat. So heading over to the women's side, I said that I believed that Jeff was more likely to repeat than Laura. I know that might sound crazy because Laura has been on the podium a bunch of times, but there are some very obvious reasons that Laura just is less likely to repeat. So Brian French wrote an article calling Laura the 2nd best female CrossFitter of all time. That may be true, but one of the biggest obstacles of her repeating is going to be the best female CrossFitter of all time making a comeback. I believe that tia-clair Toomey has every intention of competing in 2024, and the field should be scared, because Tia is just built different. Tia is, in my opinion, and you can argue this in the comments below, I would love to hear an argument against this, but I think she is the greatest CrossFit athlete of all time. Look at her games finishes. She's been there 8 times. Her worst finish is 2nd. She's second, and then 6 consecutive 1st place finishes. We've never seen anything like that. We could talk about Matt Fraser. We could talk about Rich Froning and his success on the individual side and on the team side. But Tia has done it longer than either of those two on the individual side and has just looked great doing it pretty much every time. Sometimes you may think 2022, she may have showed a little bit of vulnerability, but I really think a lot of it is based on the order of events that she looked like she was a little bit behind and tripping on a single under. Really, a lot of her being behind in 2022 was a trip on a single under. She can do single unders. She messed up. She still won. She still easily won the CrossFit Games, but she was down a little bit because of that trip. But I can't look at that and say, well, maybe she's not one of the fittest people to have ever competed in this sport. Like, it would be an exaggeration to use that one event and count her out. So to even support her greatest of all time even more, if she is to come back and win in 2024 after having a baby, 1 year removed from having a baby, I don't know how anyone argues that. Having a baby is a major strain on your body. And for her to come back and compete at the highest level and win, if she does, I just don't think there's anyone else you could argue is better. So while Laura Horvath may be the second best female CrossFitter of all time, the first one is likely to be back next year. And that instantly makes the reigning champion Laura Horvath an underdog to tia-clair Toomey. So if that happens, if Tia comes back, and I only think she'll come back if she really thinks she can win. So if she's back, she thinks she can win. Laura's the underdog right away. And I would bet against Laura in favor of Tia. But that's not the only person we have to be concerned about when it comes to who could threaten Laura for a repeat. If Mal O'Brien makes her way back onto the scene, I feel like she was honestly the favorite over Laura to win the games. Again, super young, still a kid. I think she'll be 20 next year at the games if she goes. She could also be one of the greatest CrossFitters. And she's so young, could have more than a decade left in this sport if she chooses to compete again, that I do believe Mal had a good chance of winning the games this year if she was there. And that may be part of the reason Laura Horvath did win the games, was because Mal O'Brien wasn't there. So if she comes back, it's another person that's going to make it difficult for Laura to repeat. It's another person who finished ahead of her in 2022. Then we also have Haley Adams, who I think may also make a comeback. I don't expect Haley to win the games after taking this year off. Maybe she could, maybe she's made the changes she needs to make to do that. But what she can definitely do is be a top 10 athlete, and possibly a top 5 or top 3 athlete. And she can win events that Laura doesn't do well at, pushing Laura even further down the leaderboard. So I feel like she's one of the athletes that's going to be getting in the way of Laura accumulating enough points next year to repeat and win. Brooke Wells. Brooke Wells has made clear that she's going to be competing at the CrossFit Games next year, or at least trying to. She's going to be making a comeback after missing it this year because she was suffering from an injury at semifinals and wasn't able to qualify. But next year she plans to be back, and she was a top 10 athlete in 2022. So again, another athlete that's going to make this hard. And Brooke has some similar strengths to Laura in certain things. She's very, very strong and can muscle through a lot of stuff in a similar way that Laura can. So she's going to impact Laura on the events Laura should be good at. And then also crush events that Laura is less good at, like handstand stuff. Brooke kills that stuff. So that's another athlete that's just going to make it very, very difficult for Laura to repeat. And then we have some more very, very young people that I think we haven't seen at their best quite yet, that are just getting better, and we just don't even know how much improvement they're gonna make by next year. We'll start first with the woman who wore the leader jersey, I believe, in the most events this past year, and that is Emma Lawson. And she looked so composed throughout the weekend, and she won several events. She actually did well in the Olympic total event, which was surprising to see from a smaller athlete, where that may not be the place that people think they're going to capitalize, and she didn't lose that much ground to Laura on that event. So I think Emma Lawson is somebody that if she can continue to compete at a high level and be successful, that we need to keep our eyes on her, because she hasn't maxed out her potential yet. And she almost won the CrossFit Games. Another Emma Carey, made her way back into the competition after not being able to compete in 2022 because of a back injury. And she started out a little bit rough. She had a 40th place finish in the first event, and then I believe a 39th in one of the other early on events, the Alpaca Redo event. And those placements killed her a little bit, but she still ended up finishing top 10. I believe she has a lot of potential. That year off, to some degree, had to have impacted her, and I think getting back into it this year is just going to put her in an even better place to build on that next year. And I think she has a lot of potential to do really well down the line. And I think she's somebody people have to look out for the podium in the future. And finally, Olivia Kurstetter, we saw her win heats this past weekend, and we also saw her win an event. She won the final event. It was incredibly impressive. She's very strong, still in high school. So she has also not reached her athletic potential. She is a more similar athlete to Adler and Horvath as well. So she is, again, somebody who can take those points away from Laura on the events Laura should win. So there's just so many people coming back into the mix next year and are still sort of up and coming on both the women's and the men's side that I think Jeff and Laura are going to have a difficult time repeating. Matt Fraser and tia-clair Toomey had years where they both shared the podium, and we had the same winners a couple years in a row. Repeat winners are something we got used to. I don't think these two people are repeat winners. But if you think they are, please let me know in the comments. I do want to hear your opinions. I was not as behind Jeff Adler after semifinals, and then I heard from a bunch of you and looked more into it, and that's why right before the games I predicted there was a good chance he could win. So I definitely take what you all have to say into account, but right now, very far out from the 2024 games. We don't even know when it's happening. Because of the location change, it may very well be a different weekend. So we don't even know when that's happening or how far out exactly we are right now, but we're pretty far out for sure. So these are early predictions, but at this point, repeat champs aren't happening. That's my take. Want to hear yours? Put them in the comments below. I appreciate you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.